Welcome to the Non Sequitur Show. Continual watching beyond this point may result in terminal face palming and a complete loss of wokeness. You have been warned.
All right, welcome. It is Friday afternoon. It is September 26th, and a lot of stuff's going on today. So I was going to jump on and talk a little bit about James Comey, who has been indicted, like I said he was going to be. I said he was going to be the first domino to fall. And lo and behold, looks like he's the first domino to fall. Now, I did read the summons, and so I don't think that he has to turn himself in today. A lot of people have been inquiring on Twitter, why hasn't he turned himself in yet? I don't think that he has to. There was no warrant issued for his arrest to appear for his 2 counts, one on perjury, one is obstruction. But it's just a summons. It's a summons to appear, and then at that point, if he doesn't show, then I think they'll dramatically change things up a little bit. But as of right now, he's under no obligation to turn himself in, so he did say that he's looking forward to a trial. We all know that's BS. Anytime you've listened to Comey in the last how many years, you can just tell he's lying. He lies about everything. It's just ridiculous because knowing what we know now, we know for a fact that he did commit perjury. There's no ambiguity there. There's no doubt. And it's not just one case of it either. I mean, he lied continually. This is just the opening salvo, I think, the initial perjury charge that they're going to get him on. I do believe they're probably working on more complicated, more complex charges, probably sedition, if I had to guess, or seditious conspiracy, because we all know that Comey was intricately involved with Russiagate, right? I mean, he was like one of the ringleaders, him, Brennan, Schiff, and, of course, Clapper, Rice, the usual suspects, Lynch. So anyways, I thought we'd go over some stuff. Again, I'm only going to be streaming for about an hour. That way people can go back and watch these. They're not really for the live impact any longer. I don't really care much about having a live chat. If they're there, great, and I'm happy to answer your questions. But my main goal is just to get the information out there, and people can go watch the video later on. So let me see if I can get this going here. Let me see. Is that right? Boom, 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 boom. No, that didn't. Oh, wait, hang on. We'll get it. I guess I have to set it to focus. Let's see here. There we go. If you are watching, if you can let me know if that is big enough to be read. I can blow it up a little bit here. Let's see here. Yeah, that's better. That's way better. All right, so this is the actual indictment. And again, I do believe that more indictments are to follow. I think that these are just a very lean. And again, let me point it out. This is not legal advice. I'm not a legal person. I am a, philosophy, science kind of guy. But just like any other person out there, we can go read things and formulate our conclusions based upon our understanding of the material, and then correlate that with what other people are saying as well. So that's exactly what I've been doing. So count one is basically Comey giving false testimony in front of Congress on September 30th, 2020, that he did willfully and knowingly make a material false, fictitious, and fraudulent statement in the matter within the jurisdiction of the legislation branch of the government, which is Congress, by the way, of the United States. He does say that, is it here? So by falsely stating to a U.S. senator during a sedition, Senate Judiciary Committee that he, James Comey, had not, and this is the quote, this is the main quote, right? The main quote is basically what they said is false. And so this right here is just for this one charge. This has no relationship to the seditious conspiracy. This has no relationship to any other perjury charge. Is it they can get this one charge pinned on him if they can convict. That's the whole thing. Can they convict on this one single lying to Congress for this particular count? And again, during discovery, they absolutely, I think, will find things that will lead them to have additional counts. He said, the quote is that he, quote, and I listened to this, but if you go back and you listen to the testimony in 2020, this is exactly what he was asked, okay? So I believe the first time he was asked by, if I'm not mistaken, I think, was it Grassley? Or was it the second time? He was asked at two different times, because he was asked the first time, and then in the second hearing, they wanted him to reiterate his stance on this. So he was asked if he had, quote, authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports regarding an FBI investigation, person one. So they have asked him, did you ever authorize somebody to talk, I believe it was the New York Times, and give an anonymous source to release information? He had said that he had not. Now the problem with this is that they actually have the emails, and I've seen the a little bit of them. They're from September 15th and 16th of, I believe, 2020, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember the exact year, but basically he had said that they should proceed with the Crossfire hurricane, and that they should go ahead and basically release the intel to media sources. There's also 4 people that are going to be testifying against him as far as this particular claim. So when he said that, and the quote, and by the way, it was 2016, I'm sorry. Yeah, September 15th and 16th September 15th and 16th in the year of 2016, one of the emails had said that Comey had signed off on was, quote, proceed with backgrounder to, and then the redacted outlet, which would be, I believe, the New York Times, on CH aspects, no names. CH aspects would be Crossfire Hurricane. So basically, he had given permission to whoever that was leaking information to the media to go ahead and proceed with the backgrounder on the Crossfire Hurricane aspects, which was basically willfully misleading people as far as Russian collusion and misinformation starting from December 9th, 2016, when Obama got together with the usual suspects and decided to fake intelligence reports in order to try to undermine Trump's presidency. The second count, that the statement was false. Let's go to the second count. Count 2. On or about September 30th, 2020, in the Eastern District of Virginia, the defendant, James Comey, did corruptly endeavor to influence, obstruct, and impede the due process exercise of the power of the inquiry under which an investigation was being had before a Senate Judiciary Committee by making false and misleading statements before that committee. Basically, by him lying, it impeded their investigation into, at the time, I believe they were looking at the Crossfire Hurricane material. But be that as may, they were looking to see whether there was a conspiracy to undermine the free and fair election of Donald Trump. And so it became not just perjury by him saying that he did not authorize the leak, it became obstruction at that point. And I think it's a pretty solid case, because if they have these emails that say that Comey did in fact say to go ahead and proceed with the leak, and they have 4 people willing to testify against him, and I believe those are going to be Andrew McCabe, which I think was referred to as witness 1 in the indictment, And the second one would be witness 2 would probably be James Baker. Could be James Rybicki. How do you spell his last name? James, what's his name? Rybicki. Yeah, James Rybicki. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. And there could be 2 others that I'm not quite familiar with. There have been other names floating out there. Andrew McCabe, I think, is definitely going to be one of them because he was, intricately involved in that. He was the one being told to go out and leak these things. So I think it's pretty damning when you have people that work with you that are willing to say, look, he gave me, sign off on this. He was the one that was in charge, basically, of leading the whole fake investigation into Trump. We all know this. And I do think that they're going for bigger charges. I mean, perjury is great, don't get me wrong, and that's 5 years. The obstruction, I think, is another 5. Some people have said 10 years, but I think it's 5. But even still, that's nothing compared to what Comey actually has done, right? That's a drop in the bucket from what Comey has done as far as sedition, as far as crimes against the American people. But I think it's a start. I think it's just a start because they were up against the statute of limitations, and I think that they wanted to get this in the door. Therefore, they can start getting a discovery which can lead to additional charges. And for those who don't know, James Baker was the former FBI general counsel, and James Rybicki. God, I hate his last name. Rybicki, I think. He was a chief of staff, if I recall. So these were people that were intricately involved in this. The next thing would be a press release. Let me make sure I got this showing correctly. Okay. The next thing was a press release, and this is under the ODNI homepage, the Office of Department of National Intelligence. This was that the NSA director, which was Clapper at the time, had said basically, that's our story and we're sticking to it. Now, again, there's overlap in all this stuff. This isn't directly relating to the perjury charge per se, but there are other leaks of information that go well beyond that. There was the leak of classified information with Hillary's email that we know were leaked. We know that it did have classified information. There was the leak of Bolton's that had information dealing with weapons of mass destruction. We know that was a classified leak. And we also know that Comey had 4 documents in his possession, 7 documents in his possession, 4 of which were classified. We also know that 4 of these memos were leaked. We know this. This is called a spillage, confidential or classified spillage. Information from notes or from other things that was inappropriately related to a third party. That's what they call that, spillage in classified material terminology. And so he had 7 documents, and 4 of them were classified, and 4 of them were leaked. Do the math. However you do the permutations or combinations or whatever, one of those, at least one of those classified, at least one of those documents that were leaked had to be classified. It's a mathematical certainty. There's no way around that. So we know that Clapper was releasing information. We know that Schiff was going to release information, which I'll get into. But basically, this shows that Clapper was basically saying that no matter what, yes, we compromised our normal modalities, which is just a fancy way of saying we're not going to do this the usual way. We're going to take shortcuts. We're going to do what we have to do to get this false intel out to the public, because as you guys know, Obama didn't like the intel report that had said that Russia was not doing anything to really interfere with our elections other than just causing some discord. They had no cyber technology to interfere with our elections, but that wasn't good enough. They wanted something to be a much higher confidence that would implicate Trump. And that's exactly what they did. They fabricated new intel. And this basically says, today, Director of National Intelligence, DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, declassified a top-secret email from then DNI James Clapper, exposing his efforts to suppress concerns raised by then National Security Director Mike Rogers regarding the politicized January 2017 intelligence community assessment that President Obama ordered. Now, this is pretty important. The ICA, the original ICA, and if you go back, you can see the timeline for this. The original ICA did not say that Russia was interfering with our elections, just that there's some discord that they were trying to do. They were not trying to cyber hack us. There was no, ability to influence the election, but he wanted to tie it to Trump. On December 22nd, 2016, Rogers wrote an email to Clapper, the then FBI Director James Comey. James Comey. Remember, isn't that the guy that got indicted for perjury and obstruction? Yeah, this is far more important stuff than just one line to Congress that he said. And then CIA Director John Brennan, who was the head of the CIA, expressing serious concerns over the NSA's lack of sufficient access, warning NSA personnel aren't fully comfortable saying they have enough time to review all the intelligence to be absolutely confident in their assessments. Now, it did came out later that the NSA would, as far as I know, would not sign off as being ones that said that they had high confidence in the ICA that Obama had ordered. All the other intelligence departments basically said we have high confidence in this. If you remember, everybody was going around saying, hey, we have 17 intelligence agencies that have high confidence in this. That was an outright lie. Hillary knew it was an outright lie. There's evidence that she was in on it. There's evidence that she knew about it, absolutely, and that she was okay with it. There's emails with that. Clapper responded, quote, we may have to compromise our normal modalities, and, quote, more time is not negotiable. Quote, the leading figures in the Russian hoax have spent years deceiving the American public by presenting their manufactured and politicized assessments as credible intelligence. Now, this is, like I said, this is important. Now, here's what you have to keep in mind. It doesn't matter how much Trump derangement syndrome you have. These are legal proceedings at the level of the United States of America from the Office of Department of Intelligence. This is not social media. This is hundreds of years of the United States and government, the full weight of the government coming down on these people, on James Comey. It doesn't matter what you think. It does not matter what you believe. What matters is this is what's happening. So the fact remains that these are the things that people really don't know what's going on. And so the people that can watch this later on, hopefully they'll watch and they'll figure it out. But if not, the information is always out there, correct? Clapper's response to Rogers just came hours before the authors of the ICA were set to deliver the initial draft of the politicized ICA to the intelligence community leaders. And the emails are declassified or here. You can go in and read them at your leisure. I'm not going to go through them right now. However, there are some good, there's only like two, but there's some takeaway that I think is very interesting. So the Democratic whistleblower told that FBI that Adam Schiff approved classified leaks to target Trump. Okay, this was actually a Fox News article that came out back in August. Intelligence staffer who worked for the House Democrats said, called the alleged behavior treasonous and illegal. Now, as you know, Adam Schiff is probably going to be indicted, or, okay, I'm going to walk that back. I'm not going to predict that he's going to be indicted on mortgage fraud. I'm going to say that's possible. He might be indicted on mortgage fraud. I do think Letitia James, who was the AG of New York, who actually was part of the conspiracy to try to undermine Trump's presidency, she will be indicted for mortgage fraud. The evidence is beyond overwhelming on that. So Adam Schiff has a lot of explaining to do as well. I think that'll eventually have to go in front of Congress, or they'll find charges for him as well. But a whistleblower told the FBI that Adam Schiff approved leaks to target Trump. A Democratic whistleblower told the FBI that Adam Schiff approved leaking classified information in order to discredit President Donald Trump, according to newly released documents. We have those documents. I have those documents. Those documents, which were obtained by Just the News, were recently handed over to Congress by FBI Director Kash Patel. The whistleblower reportedly worked for Democrats on the House Intelligence Committee over 10 years and reported Schiff's alleged behavior to the FBI in 2017. And the whistleblower's notes and everything like that was pretty impressive. He had tried to get a hold of people and said, look, we can't do this. This is treason. This is illegal. And he was shut down at every single solitary thing. Everything that he sent out got sent back to him. Matter of fact, I believe it's right here. I'm going to go back and show you. There's actually on the ODNI DIG, there's declassified evidence of the administration's conspiracy to subvert President Trump's 2016 victories and presidency. And if you go right here, download the Russia host whistleblowers records, here you go. you can actually go read the whistleblower's testimony and records from that webpage here. And again, I'm not going to go through it all. I don't have a lot of time today, so I'm going to keep this really short. But it's right there if you want to go check it out. I'll put the links in the video description afterwards. But basically, you can just go to the ODNI homepage, Office of the Director of National Intelligence, and it'll be right there. Here we go. Oh, that's not it. But I wanted to show you that. Where is that email? I have it somewhere. Oh, I know where it was. So anyways, Schiff had said that he basically would release these documents in order to, or intel to the news organizations in order to make Trump look bad. This was a coordinated effort to undermine Trump's presidency. Hi, Skid Row. How are you, man? Good to see you, my friend. Greetings. And I know somebody's going to say, well, this is Fox News. Why believe them? Look, I don't care who the news source is. I go to Fox, CNN, MSNBC. I'll check them all out. But I also go to the primary sources. I always try to check my primary sources. Well, let's look at the primary source. Okay. What does this primary source say? This is from the Federal Bureau of Investigation for Declassified Documents that support what Fox News was saying. It said, quote, in this meeting, Schiff stated the group would leak classified information which was derogatory to President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Schiff stated the information would be used to indict President Trump. That's pretty damning. This is an FBI investigation report. And they redacted the whistleblower's name. I do have the name somewhere. I can find it. I don't remember who exactly his name was, but I think that is pretty well known now, if you're interested. But the interesting part of this was they didn't think they were going to get caught. When the whistleblower brought this up, Schiff basically said, we're not going to get caught. What does it matter? But they did get caught. Because he said, it goes on to say, whoever the redacted portion was again approached about leaking classified information in a separate meeting by unnamed individuals. Redacted believed this activity to be unethical and treasonous, which is exactly what was reported in the Fox News report, right? It was treasonous, and that would be illegal. They didn't use the word unethical, but clearly if something's treasonous and illegal, that kind of falls, that would be unethical too, right? Or illegal if it's treasonous. And Redacted was concerned about the discussion and as a result reached out to contacts from his prior employment for guidelines on where to report this experience. And of course, you can go through the whistleblower's testimony. I highly recommend doing it. Again, it is right there on the Director Initiatives group page. There's the report, which is a long document. There's the Russian memo hoax, which shows you the chronology, and then the whistleblower's testimony. And it also goes on to say, Schiff was particularly upset as and by the way, this I think is really important. And then I'll get to my live chat and call it a day, because again, I'm going to be doing a live episode tomorrow, hopefully on Non Sequitur, with a guest. What I kind of do is when I'm kind of doing my own monologue or soliloquy or whatever, talking about the stuff, I'm going to keep them kind of short on this channel, hopefully down to maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, 90 minutes, depending on what I'm talking about. This one today will be about 30 minutes. And then when I actually have a guest, I'll go on the Non Sequitur show and talk to the guest. Right now I have Thomas Sheedy lined up from Atheists for Liberty, and I think that's going to be a great show, and a few other people. So we're kind of going to do it that way, I think. But this says from the FBI report, Schiff was particularly upset as he believed he would have been appointed as the director of the CIA had candidate Hillary Clinton won the election. Now, you got to remember, everybody was thinking Hillary was going to win the election, right? All the polls say Hillary was going to win the election. So Schiff never thought this was going to come to light. Comey never thought any of this was going to come to light. Clapper never thought any of this going to come to light. They could not let Trump win, right? They had to do whatever Trump had already said, look, he's going to declassify a lot of stuff. And I think the last presidential action that Trump did just before he left the presidency on his first term, Trump 1.0, was to declassify crossfire hurricane, which they did not want out, clearly. Clearly, they did not want that out. So they did not want him to ever get in office again. I believe that they did everything in their power to stop him. They framed him. They levied false accusations against him. They fraudulently charged him with things. I mean, everything from the Carroll, the ridiculous, Carroll thing. Oh my God! I mean, that was. If you go back and look at that case, you'll find that her testimony was absolutely absurd. She couldn't remember dates, times, and there was the E. Jean Carroll case. He basically. I mean, listen to his testimony. He was like, I don't even know this woman. And I believe him because she had no idea about the facts of what happened. And they had to actually create a new law called the Adult Survivors Law in order for him to be indicted on it. And that law, she was the first person to use it. And all of a sudden, 12 months later, it expired. It was a complete political witch hunt. And they already determined that the amount that the courts found for her was a violation of the Eighth Amendment. They were trying to bankrupt him, right? They could not allow him to be president again, because if he did, all this would come to light. All these things that are right here in the Office of Director of the National Intelligence, all these evidence, the declassified evidence of Obama's administration's conspiracy to subvert President Trump's 2016 victory in presidency would all come to light. Now, again, I don't care how much Trump derangement syndrome you have. This is the evidence. The evidence is extraordinary, and it will be used to bring these people to justice. I don't want to hear, oh, it's from a Trump appointee, or it's from Trump's administration, or it's from Tulsi Gabbard. I don't care. That's not a yeah, I'll get there, AT2, I promise. That's not a defense. And I'm limiting the people on my social media from now on because I just don't want to deal with it. I'm not going to go back and rehash all this stuff that was done to Trump because other people have done that. I could, but I need to talk about things going forward. And unfortunately, those things are just weighing people down, right? They're just canards. And you can never get out the new information if you continually talk about the old information. There's many other people that's willing to discuss it. I'm not one of them. If you want to have a one-on-one chat with me, that's fine. Talk to me as a person. And I'm happy to spend as many hours with you as I need to sometimes. People know I've done that. But if you come at me sideways, I don't care. I'm not doing this for them. So anyways, AT2 says they didn't think they'd get caught because they expected to be successful and prevent Trump from getting into office again. That's why the auto pen came out for all those blanket pardons. 100%. You are absolutely, and I know Jared loves hearing this. These are his favorite words. You were right. Yeah, no, dude, you're 100% correct on that. The auto pen was a whole different thing, which I'm going to get to videos talking about the auto pen scandal. We now know that Biden did not pardon the J6 Commission. Biden did not pardon some of the criminals that he had pardoned. He did not pardon anybody. I think the only legitimate pardon that he had that he signed by hand was Hunter Biden. And that's a whole different video for the Hunter Biden laptop. Holy cow. The stuff that was on there will blow your mind. And so we know that they didn't expect this to happen. And so the auto pen was the last minute pardons just before the election result. Well, it's just after. I mean, if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, Jared, the auto pen pardons came the night before Trump was going to take office. Correct? The last night of the Biden administration, midnight, those pardons came through. They were not done by Biden. They were done by a cabal of people that were basically had usage of the auto pen and basically had told staffers to go ahead and do this. And when the staffers testified in front of Congress, none of them, not one of them testified Biden gave them the instructions to do it, nor was there any link to say that Biden did. It all came from these White House staffers that had supposedly authorized these pardons. And I do believe there's a strong case for them to be overturned, and they probably will be null and void. One sec. Okay. Sorry, I gotta go do something. But anyways, if you look at the White House chief of staffers under Biden, I think a lot of them were in that little cabal of people, the position that Susan Wiles has now. But if you go back and look at some of the closest people in the and look at like John Podesta, right? He was one of the chief of staff. Oh, some crazy stuff going on Podesta. But the people closest to Biden, yeah, I do think that they were intricately involved in making those pardons happen for their own whatever. I think they might have been pay to play. Whatever it was, they wanted to cover their tracks, because I do think the J6 commission was a farce. We're finding out stuff all the time about J6. We know that it was not what people had thought it was. It was definitely not an insurrection. You can believe what you want. I don't care. But the facts speak for themselves. We know that there was 26 confidential informants there. They didn't want that out. We know there was now 200 and some odd feds that were there undercover. They didn't want that out. We know that Pelosi was the one that didn't want the National Guard. That came out. So there's a lot of things that just did not sit right with them pardoning the J6. So the J6 commission. So what else we got? A22 says, I forgot the exact timing, but they were very close to when Trump was due to show up for the turnover. Yeah, I think it was the night before. I really do. So I'll have to check into that and get back to you. But I think it was like midnight before he was supposed to take office. Let me check on something real quick, though. Let me check my notes here on something, because I don't want to. I don't want to mislead you guys. I'm sorry. I'll check my facts. Yeah. Okay. So I didn't find that, Jared, but I think that the three main people that were in charge of the auto pen and that were actually running the country, and again, I'm going to make the prediction, this is going to be true, that it was Anita Dunn, Mike Dolian, and Steve Ricchetti. Remember those names: Anita Dunn, Mike Dolian, Steve Ricchetti. Those people were the ones that were basically making all the major decisions, because Biden was never competent enough to, right? We all know that he was not all there. We know that he was just basically a puppet and a figurehead. So we know that he was not the one to issue these pardons, and there's no evidence that he did. So I'm going to end this stream. I just wanted to go over, some basic stuff about James Comey. I'm going to put the links in the video description and the evidence against him. So when people say, oh, there's no evidence, well, there is. I mean, obviously there's emails and there's testimony. The emails are very clear that he said to go ahead and proceed with the Crossfire hurricane leakage, and that Andrew McCabe and other people will testify that that's what happened. Which, if he's convicted on the perjury, it's almost a shoo-in. He'll be convicted on the obstruction. And during testimony, they're going to find other things. We know that he lied in front of the Congress when he said that he wasn't familiar with the spying on Trump, but we know that he was in charge of it. We also know that there was a FISA warrant that was illegally obtained because a lawyer in the case had changed one of the emails to say something that it didn't originally say in order to get that FISA warrant for was it Lisa what's her name? Lisa Carter? Lisa Page? Oh man, I'm drawing a blank. Right? So when it comes to the illegalities of Comey, extends way beyond just one perjury charge. That's not going to be enough for why Trump went into office to basically drain the swamp. So I'm going to predict there's more going to be coming down the pike at some point. I definitely think there's going to be more arrests. I'm going to predict that. I do think that Letitia James is going to be arrested at some point for mortgage frauds, and I think that Brennan, Clapper, Bolton are all going to be under the gun for being arrested. Bolton especially for his releasing of classified material. They found tons of classified materials at his house. Somebody's going to come along and go, oh, what about Mar-a-Lago? What about Trump? Yeah, that's already been done. They've already investigated that. There was no illegalities. If you want to believe there is, whatever, that's up to you. But we do know for a fact there was illegalities with Bolton, and that's what I'm going to be discussing going forward is future stuff, not past stuff. But go ahead and let me know what you want to have more information on in the comment section. Be polite. I'm not tolerating any anybody coming over to my pages anymore on my social media and just being a dick to people and people that I know, especially on my Facebook. Some of these people I've known for all my life, it's just not going to happen any longer. I'm going to put out what I want to put out. If you want to listen to it, great. If you want to engage in it, that's fine too. But if you want to sit there and just troll, and if you want to sit there and slander me, I'm just not going to tolerate it any longer, nor should I have to. I've proven my ability to disseminate correct information ad nauseum, and that I do have a basic understanding of the things that I talk about. So if you don't like that, go somewhere else. It's a big internet. But anyways, for those who did stick around, hey, great. I love you guys. I appreciate it immensely. I really do. And I love your feedback on it. Like, Jared, saying that they didn't think they would get caught. He's exactly right. So he's been informed, right? He knows what's up. But with that, guys, I'm going to call the stream over because, again, I got to keep this really short today. I'm on a very tight crunch. I got things I got to do. So I will probably be running a stream tomorrow just for any questions to kind of maybe do a part 2 on this. But like I said, I don't think James Comey is going to turn himself in, nor do I think that he has to. But I do think that the evidence against him is pretty damning. So let me know what you think. And just, again, talk about the evidence. Don't talk about the person. I don't want to care anything about Trump. I couldn't care less. If you think he's guilty of whatever, good. Do it on your page. Do it on your channel. But I'm not going to waste my time on it. It's just not worth my time. And I'm very limited on my time. So anyways, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you later on.